Everything's changing, my whole family's in danger, cause they suffer from poverty. I need the biggest house on Lake Shore for my mama to see. Make sure she proud of me, cause Barbara's a part of me, and Marlon's a part of me. My grandpa just passed, I feel lost in all honesty. I just had a kid, the beginning and end. This the cost to live life, just don't live it in sin.
And how did you get to MMU?
MMU?
Mm-hmm.
So I started off trying to get into Iowa University, University of Iowa, and they told me that I couldn't come in because I only had 3 years of a foreign language and I needed 4. So they was trying to get me to do an extra 2 classes in order to get into their school, and I'm like, no, I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to finish this as soon as possible. So I have a friend, Marissa Clark. She's also in the criminal justice program. She graduated just in May too. And she told me about that she's in MMU, and she was like, yeah, no, they transfer a lot of our credits from Kirkwood into Mount Mercy. You should give it a try and see what happens. And then I was explaining how I'm double majoring in criminal justice and psychology, so I didn't understand how they would go about it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I called, I met with Dennis, which is the director of psychology, then I went with Chad, which is the director of the criminal justice, and they were like, you know what, we're going to accept all of your criminal justice, and we're going to accept all your psychology. Since you basically almost done with these majors, we just need you to get some other classes in. So, like, oh, well, I can finish this in a year? I'm like, yeah, I'm coming to Mount Mercy. Like, that was a no-brainer.
Why did you choose psychology and criminal justice as your majors? And where does your passion come for those 2 subjects?
The same thing. Me growing up in the south side of Chicago, like I said, like, these days my teachers will ask me a question and say, like, what do you think about law enforcement? So I tell them, like, it's a loaded question, and they be like, what do you mean? I'm like, I can tell you 2 different answers. I can tell you the answer of what I think of law enforcement from what I've experienced growing up, or I can tell you from going to school. So I wanted to know when I was younger, I never understood it like that. Like, 'cause my daddy was incarcerated, and when the police came and got him, I didn't understand it. Like, wait, who is these people? And where they taking my daddy at? So me being so young, I didn't understand it. So then when people was telling me, oh yeah, it's the law, and I'm like, the law? What is that? So that intrigued me at a young age to try to figure out and understand what is the law. So I started researching the law like since I was a little kid, and that intrigued my basically the criminal justice path. With psychology, when I was younger, it's like people would what you call lie. And it's like they could look you straight in your eye and like tell you something and like, wait, why would they say that if they not? And then I ended up bumping into the word psychology and understood that it was talking about like the mind. So I'm like, wow, people keep saying that I'm smart, but your mind is inside your brain somewhere. So if I understood psychology, maybe I could understand myself more. So I wanted to go to psychology route.
Gotcha. Okay. And what systems did Mount Mercy have in place that helped you achieve your goals? Or what could Mount Mercy do better?
I have to thank the one and only, I call him the guru, right? Being in the A Center. Like when I say, I'm not like going through Kirkwood and going through college the first time, I've never had anybody help me with my writing, like, because it was like, I think I kind of got this, and I was doing so well. But then when the teacher was saying, like, we want you to write on the college level, we want you to get deep, we want you to go into depth and details, like, because the more you go in depth into the field, you have to understand the terminology. So I'm like, okay. They're like, also you got to understand how to write it. I'm like, okay. So they told me to go to the A Center, and I had met Ben for the first time. And like with the first paper, he was like, wow, I'm amazed at how you writing. It's like, it's not that many mistakes. He like, but it's minor things. And then I was explaining to him why those minor things were, because in grammar, they tell us we can't write in run-on sentences.
Mm-hmm.
But the law is written in run-on sentences. So I'm telling him, like, I have to continue myself to write like that in order for me to understand the law. Because if I change the way that I write my grammar, then I start interpreting the law different. And I don't want to do that. Like, so he understood that. So the A Center, Ben, I say 2 thumbs up. Like 3, I'll give him 3 thumbs up. What else? I would say the teachers, like a lot of the teachers, like they always had their door open. It wasn't a closed door policy. It was always, Dennis was always there, Chad was always there, Dr. Sullivan was always there, Dr. Lee was always there when she became my teacher, Deb was always there. So basically, like, all my teachers was always there, and whenever I needed a helping hand, they can lead me in the right direction. So that's what I liked about Mount Mercy as well.
If you could redo your Mount Mercy experience, what, if anything, would you change?
If I could redo it, I'll probably start there. That's probably what I would do, because my Mercy has I forgot the name of the scholarship, but the first generation person going to college, like they basically pay for your 4 years, I would have started at Mount Mercy, but I wasn't coming out of high school, so I wouldn't have been able to do that. But if I could, I would want to start that for my first 4 years, because when I came into Mount Mercy, I came into Mount Mercy the spring of 2018. So the fall semester had already started. So a lot of the kids and a lot of the other students, they had already formed their groups by then. So with me coming in the spring, it was hard for me to integrate into a group, and it was like, man, well, I just have to just sit on the outskirts of a lot of groups and just have friends from like that. But if I could change anything, I would rather start it there, so that way I could have had a bigger like network of friends from Mount Mercy.
What are you doing now, just shortly after commencement, and what are your goals for the future?
Now I'm in a master's program for criminal justice. I'm currently working part-time, and I'm currently looking for a publisher for my first written book.
Well, what's your book about?
My book it's called The Mercy Papers.
The Mercy Papers? All right.
So basically it has to do with my mercy.
Gotcha. All right. And do you have any advice for students that might be in a similar situation to yours growing up?
I'll take 10 years to tell you all this stuff. Because basically like what I'm doing, like the business that I'm creating, like with this logo, is basically a lot of kids are in bad neighborhoods and they don't have the opportunities to make it out. So it's like I'm trying to explain to them what I did so they can make it out of those situations. Because what I did was like I stayed in the library. And like I said, like you see in the different blocks in the neighborhood, you expand in your brain. Like research shows that they did research with rats to where the rat just could only just spin on the wheel, but then they put different things in a different rat like environment, and then when they weighed the brain at the end of the day, the rat that had a lot of different environments that it had experienced, brain weighed more. It had more gray matter, which is what you need to think. So I would basically like tell the kids like never give up. Like just keep pushing through. Like and that's what I tell people. Like basically like prosper through the adversity. Like every day is not gonna be a good day, but you can make it a good day. So it's like if you actually have that mindset and that focus on your goal.